want to start by talking about this. This is troubling. We've talked a lot about the homeless ordinance, and we talked about Carolyn Goodman fining people up to $1,000, sending them to jail for up to 6 months if they are sleeping in certain areas within the city limits. So what does that mean now? It means that many homeless people are moving into other areas. And now there's a historic Las Vegas neighborhood that is fed up after the homeless camp has taken over a nearby wash. These are residents in the Maryland Parkway and Flamingo area. And apparently there's, people that are lighting tires on fire under bridges, having loud, noisy parties, defecating. And it's not a good situation. And we have two people on the line with us right now that live in that area that say it has turned their living experience into literally a living hell. Sandy Trafalia and Beth Gillette join us now on the line. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies. How are you?
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on with us. Let me start with Sandy, if I may. So tell me when this all started. I would imagine this started right after that new city ordinance went into effect. But tell me when this all started for you and what you've had to deal with.
Okay, well, the first thing I want to let you know is that a lot of the issues that we have are cleaned up right now within our immediate neighborhood, but it's just a revolving door. And when they do get cleaned up, and I'll share with you at length what that was, they just get pushed to another area in our neighborhood or within the Las Vegas Valley as a whole. So we're looking for some real solutions. What I went through was I actually live on the Las Vegas National Golf Course, and the wash is next to me. And what you saw on the news was indicative of what was living next to me for 4 months. It tore my heart out to see people living this way. It was also an environmental disaster as well as drug dealing going on, all kinds of crazy things. This was 24 hours a day, 365 for over 4 months. My neighborhood pulled together. I believe it takes a community to work with the entities that we did work with and not expect them to just come out and solve everything.
Right.
And yes, it was a living hell, and I don't have that situation anymore out my window. And in my yard, I couldn't use my yard, my balcony. There were fires going all day long. That has moved, but where did it move to? It just shifted to another area in Vegas. And these are human beings that we're talking about. There's a myriad of issues why people are homeless, and I'm not going to get into a political discussion on that, but I just know that solving what the issues were just within Paradise Palms is not the solution.
Right.
And we are a very active community and a historic community. I wouldn't live anywhere else. And I don't consider just moving them out of my backyard a solution.
Sure.
So that's a nutshell.
Now, Beth, I appreciate that explanation. And Beth Gillette is also joins us on the line. She lives in that area as well. So, Beth, my question to you is this. If you had a chance to sit down with Mayor Carolyn Goodman right now, who, let's just be honest about it, she's responsible for putting this ordinance into place. She needed some help from some other people that supported it. But if you had a chance to speak to Carolyn Goodman right now, what would you say to her?
Well, what I'd like to say is, how are we coordinating with the city with the county? I want to know if they're having, back and forth talk here, because we've got two different municipalities. Obviously, the city's, worn weary of this issue, and I can understand it to a point. But what they did was they just shoved it down the road, and down the road means into residential areas. When traditionally we're accustomed to seeing this more in a downtown type setting or on busy corners or freeway exits, that type of thing. Now it's right here in our neighborhoods, and I'm aware that it's not just in our neighborhood. In fact, I went to there was a Meet Your Commissioner meeting about 3 weeks ago in our area. And so we had 3 of the commissioners present. The room was absolutely packed to overflowing. 3 different commissioner districts, and the topic of the evening by the audience was the homeless impact because of this ordinance. And to answer your first question, you asked, when did we first see the initial impact of that? It was immediately after the ordinance hit the news, well before they started officially imposing it, which was after the first of the year.
November.
Back in November, we were, all of a sudden, I think we were really startled as to what we were seeing. Now, we live in an older historic neighborhood. We're accustomed to seeing, the usual homeless activity. We see many of the same characters. They have their locations that they work, and they've, overall been harmless. We haven't had issues. But this huge disruption, I think, caused problems even in the homeless community because people do have their little territories. And when others don't have places to go and they're all having to mix and they're frustrated, it just creates problems, and it pushed the entire area.
Beth, and I ask you, too, because I would imagine you went through some of the similar stuff that Sandy has gone through. Listen, we've talked to business owners, some of whom have even come in studio, that have said that there are people urinating and defecating in front of their offices, that many of these homeless people have mental illness, but they don't want help. So can you talk to me a little bit about what you had to deal with when they were in your neighborhood? And what do you think, I mean, this might be a loaded question for both of you, actually, but what do you think is the solution to help this problem, to get these people off the streets?
That's a big question. Beth, can I just say one of the things that we did just to solve our immediate problem, which did not help the homeless in any way, which is why I'm on the show today, because I have a concern about looking for solutions. We partnered as a community. I put together a petition. Over 70 people signed it. I went to the Metro Police and approached them, not in a way that pointing fingers at them, but saying, what can we do? How do we partner with you to deal with this situation? And they stepped right up to the plate. A lot of entities got involved. I'll let Beth speak to that, but we really worked in concert with the Metropolitan Police, with SIG, with the golf course, and with the community. It took us working together to get the immediate situation resolved next to my house so I could sleep. But that, again, the bigger picture. So, Beth, do you want to talk about some of the things they're doing to try to be involved?
Yeah. So, what drew me into this, I live in the same neighborhood, but in a different area than Sandy. It's a rather large neighborhood with about 1,000 homes. So I'm in a different area. We're having our visual impacts as well, but on a different part of the golf course. And so because the wash runs through this golf course, homeless people that live and camp out and maneuver through the wash itself, it just brought them right down through our area. And there was one new gentleman in the group. As I'd said, we inherited some new folks, and this was an aggressive individual. One night near the end of November, he found his way in through the golf course into the backyards, into people's homes. Either they had forgotten to leave they left a back door unlocked, or they had doggy doors for large dogs. And this gentleman helped himself into their homes and burglarized their homes. He was actually witnessed by two of the residents while they were in bed. He was in their room. So, that's pretty upsetting. Fortunately, nothing violent has happened. I'm not aware of any violence here, but that's extremely upsetting. We have a very tight neighborhood, a very socially active neighborhood, a very socially active Facebook page. So we're constantly communicating about these issues and what people are experiencing. The normal stuff that happens in every neighborhood here certainly happens here, but it definitely got worse. So
I just
wanted to be a part of the solution.
Yeah.
I know Sandy and I think our group that has worked together, we're very empathetic people. We understand these are human beings living in traumatic circumstances. Some are responsible for their circumstances. Many others are not.
I can't imagine.
So it's very complicated.
Yeah. No, I understand.
And to have work for the homeless, and then to have the third world, like the worst that you could think of, it living next to your forever home. I was put in a position of fighting them, which is not what I want to do.
Well, of course not.
Where can they go?
Well, listen,
so that's why this is so. It touches your soul.
Let me just start by saying it's one thing, and it's bad enough when you have to deal with a number of homeless people around your residence. That's bad enough as it is. And look, I understand these are human beings. Many of them have mental illness. There are a lot of reasons why they are homeless, and it is not an easy subject, an easy fix. But that's one thing, and that's bad enough. That escalates to a whole new level when you see people on roofs of your neighbors' homes, when you see people breaking in to homes, this isn't just an eyesore anymore, okay, like it was for the most part downtown. And of course, when people are defecating at your businesses, I mean, it's affecting people. It's horrible. But now we're talking about some serious situations where we're talking about safety issues. Do you know the woman, one of your neighbors, my understanding, where you had one of these homeless people on one of their roofs? Can you tell us about this?
We are aware of that. We've also been aware of, we even have a person in our neighborhood who volunteers with the homeless, and he woke up with one of the new local homeless in his bedroom in the middle of the night.
Oh, my God.
Our neighborhood is some folks are arming themselves because, it's happening all over the valley.
So where do you think these people went? I mean, now that you said that they've moved...
They went right back up. I'll tell you where they went. A lot of them went back up to the wash behind the Target and the wash by Maryland Parkway.
So this is like desert. You're talking about and correct me if I'm wrong, Desert Inn in Maryland area? Is that what you're talking about?
No.
Flamingo in Maryland.
Yeah,
okay.
Flamingo. The Flamingo wash, I was surprised when I finally looked how close Maryland Parkway with a Flamingo wash is to where I am.
But Sandy and Beth, here's the thing now. Now you're not being terrorized, but now another community is being terrorized. So the problem...
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I realized when I went to that Meet Your Commissioner meeting. It was prevalent in 3 of the districts represented. So even though we're primarily focused on the Flamingo Wash that runs through our neighborhood and our area, it woke me up to realize this is far more prevalent than what we realize.
Well, listen,
and what we're doing is just shuffling.
Yeah.
I've gone to the first Tuesday monthly meetings that Metro holds for the neighborhood, and I've talked to the Metro officers assigned to this area. And, they understand the ordinance. If you've read, how it's been reported in the paper, mostly Metro is not arresting people, thankfully, because it's no solution.
Right.
And it only actually, I think, in my opinion, makes everything worse because $1,000 fine for people that can't afford to live as it is just keeps them in a downward spiral.
So here's where I'm confused, Sandy and Beth, and I'm sure you're confused about this as well. You can help me out on this maybe. But listen, I'm friends with Oscar Goodman. I've known Oscar Goodman for almost 20 years. I actually like the guy. I think he's a good guy. But Carolyn Goodman, she's a nice lady, okay? She's been on this show before. Here's the part I don't understand. They had to have known, at least I hope, that if they put this ordinance into place, yes, while this will probably help some businesses downtown, these people are just going to be moving elsewhere, and they don't have a solution to what to do with these people. I don't understand.
They basically just moved everything we are in unincorporated Clark County, and I feel like a stepchild because it was just the next dumping ground.
Right. It's kind of like we don't want to dump your garbage.
About that.
I hate to use an analogy to garbage because it's tough for me to do that because, listen, homeless people are individuals. They have families. They have friends. We want them to get the help that they need. But I'm going to make this analogy because, in a way, I guess it's similar to that, only these are human beings. But it's like when there's dumping garbage somewhere and there's an ordinance that says you can't dump the garbage there. Well, they're just going to dump the garbage somewhere else. There's no solution to the problem. And listen, we all care about these people. I would imagine a majority of these people are at one point were stable in their lives, and maybe they got involved with the wrong people. Maybe it's drugs. Maybe it's alcohol. Who knows? Maybe it's gambling. But you're not going to help these people by just pushing them to walk to other communities like birds. I mean, just flying to different areas.
That's why we're on this show. Because that is not the solution. And I want to raise one other thing. It's also a really severe environmental issue. I live on the Wash. My view is all birds and ducks, and it's all natural to the course. Yeah. And what has happened is it's become a garbage dump.
Yeah.
With all and I can't even go out and pick it up because who knows what else is in there. And, when you're watching people defecating and everything, it's a real environmental disaster. This wash, you can see a sign, don't dump in the wash, it goes to Lake Mead.
And it's also
everybody's living around it.
Yeah, and it's also important to note what you two had to deal with. I would imagine what hundreds of people have had to deal with, maybe even thousands of people. Yeah. And by the way, this is not just going on in Las Vegas. This is a problem throughout the country. We all know the
Absolutely.
major issues that are taking place in California right now. Vegas is like Disney World compared to what is taking place in California right now.
Exactly.
I mean, listen, I don't know what all the answers are. I really don't. But here's what I do know. Our politicians are letting these people down. They're letting people like you down, and they're letting these homeless people down. While many of these homeless people may not want help, it is because they are mentally ill and they don't understand what they're doing to their body.
And the big issue is, I think, that something like this taking place is kind of proof that a San Francisco or a Los Angeles or a Skid Row situation, considering how fast Las Vegas is expanding, that could actually happen here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's only going to get worse if they don't come up with solutions. Yeah, let me ask you.
What happens when it happens to the next person like me? Literally, when I couldn't sleep for 4 months, and I am not functioning at my.
Can I ask you, Sandy, when you say you couldn't sleep for 4 months, like what did you hear in the middle of the night that kept you up? Like what was going on?
My backyard is a fishbowl. Everything from the watch comes directly up. I'm in a two-story home. I work on my balcony because I'm a remote worker now. And I can literally for 4 months heard everything, and especially at night. There would be partying going on, fires going, things being broken, stuff moving in and out. I mean, I literally, it could not have gotten any worse.
And I'm sure you could smell a lot, too.
My husband was out of his mind because he needs to work, too. And, we'd be calling the police at 3 o'clock in the morning because there's a fire raging and people screaming and fights going on. And
wow.
I can't even begin to tell you. I was under siege for 4 months.
Oh, I'm sorry you had to go through that. Vegas is an interesting and weird town for a lot of different reasons. But, you have these nice gated communities. You mentioned that you live, in the area where there's Las Vegas Country Club. And there's a lot of really nice homes in that area. It's all a gated community, but there are a lot of
They're
areas.
Still having problems.
Yeah,
my next-door neighbor moved out of and she's original from the Rat Pack.
Right.
Moved out of the country club because of all the issues they have over there.
Gosh,
And
that
we're,
is
and
unbelievable.
we're not gated. We're the original master plan community in the entire country, but it was never gated. This is well before HOAs or anything like that. So this is just a regular open community. It just happens to be on the first, original golf course in Las Vegas. So we're a normal neighborhood. But what's different about us and why we've been able to organize the way we do is there's a great deal of enthusiasm about this being a historic neighborhood, and we've got a very active Facebook page. So we're able to communicate about the issues and create awareness easier than most other neighborhoods would be able to do, or most other communities. And so in that way, we've been able to organize and reach out to our representatives. And to a level, the early efforts have looked good. Right now, we're looking good, but we've seen this. This is a cycle.
Well, here's what I think.
Cleaned up,
yeah.
And within a week or so, it's all back again. And now that we realize it's such a prevalent issue, I took the time to do a little homework on this issue. And between the city and the county, I think I need to throw a few statistics out there. We are definitely being let down, but still we need to be aware that between the city and the county, there's about $100 million being spent on this issue every single year. Mm-hmm. And that goes into all the different services provided. I'm sure it includes the, police effort and, just trying to keep them moved along and, sometimes arrested. They're housing about 3,300 people each year. There's about 2,000 beds out of all the different agencies and nonprofits involved. There's about 2,000 beds offered. But on any given day, there's about 5,500 to 6,500 homeless out on our streets. Mm-hmm. So you can see, even though it looks like on paper a considerable amount has been done and is being done, it's just scratching the surface.
Well, here's what I want to say in closing. And by the way, I appreciate both of you sharing your stories. I hope that it helps people in the long run. I think it will. But let me say this. I believe that the reason why, and this is speculation, but I believe the reason why Carolyn Goodman and the other politicians in this city put this ordinance in place was not because of people like you that are living downtown. I'll tell you what it was for. It was for businesses, local businesses that maybe have some ties to some of these politicians, maybe financial ties. They were complaining, and now it helps the businesses downtown, but it hurts the good people who live in this city, like the Sandy and the Beths out there that are have struggled. And now there are other people that are struggling that are living in our communities. So while you've helped businesses downtown, and I'm speaking to Carolyn Goodman, while you've helped some of the businesses, and maybe some of those businesses you have personal relationships with, while many of those businesses downtown are happy, you are hurting the good people in our community. That is what I think has happened here.
She just said, not in my backyard.
Yeah.
Where is the community spirit where we work together? You know, Las Vegas is a very small area of the valley.
Right.
But this has been our brand for some time. Business first, people last in Vegas. I mean, we could spend weeks talking about all the different issues that scenario, how it's impacted this valley and quality of life.
Well, let me say this, Sandy and Beth, I'm sorry you had to go through what you went through. I appreciate the fact that you've shared your story with us. We are going to continue to be on this story. We will continue to monitor it, and we'll do anything we can to help the good people of Las Vegas, including those that are homeless in this city. I'm not sure what we can do at this point, but at least we're spreading the word and getting your stories out there. Sandy and Beth, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it, and we'll gladly have you on again sometime down the road when you need to spread the word, okay?
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Sandy and Beth.
That is Sandy, Falia, and Beth. They have lived in this community around Las Vegas Country Club, sort of terrorized by the homeless people in that area. We have a perfect example. Sandy said she couldn't sleep for 4 months. There are some homeless people that have been breaking into homes, into bedrooms, that have been terrorizing that local historic community. And by the way, it is a historic community. And now they've moved on from that neighborhood, and they've gone to another wash in another neighborhood. The city, this is Carolyn Goodman's biggest issue as far as I'm concerned in her tenure. It's not about bringing the Raiders here. It's not about getting a ballpark at Red Rock or a soccer team. She needs to address this issue in a more manageable and intelligent way. This ordinance is not working. While it's helping local businesses downtown, it's hurting people like Beth and Sandy who just came on this show. This needs to be addressed, and something needs to be done.
It's helping local businesses downtown. It's helping it's helping businesses on the Strip. It's helping businesses. Brian, 1.1 million people visit Las Vegas every single week for a reason, because it is a tourist town. And when you are a tourist town, you're going to be, obviously the businesses will be first and the people will be second. The issue with this is, I think you're expecting Carolyn Goodman for her solution to be perfect for everybody, to make everybody happy, and that just is not possible. Obviously, the homeless people they're going to migrate to different parts of the city, and there's nothing you can do about that. The question is, how do you get them to stop doing that without allowing them to affect the businesses downtown and the businesses on the Strip that keep Las Vegas what it is, that allow things like the Las Vegas Raiders to come, that allow things like the multiple casino resorts that are on the Strip, and all the revenue that come in. The Las Vegas Strip was probably the most profitable street in the United States outside of Wall Street. I mean, on a consistent basis. And so that the question is, you can't really make everybody happy, and saying that's Carolyn Goodman's biggest issue. I mean, yeah, the homeless issue is an issue across the United States, and that's just a matter of wealth disparity. In Las Vegas, it's worse because you have gambling. You have a lot of these people, and a lot of them are ex-veterans under the Obama administration, which was not good for veterans at all. But they have gambling issues. They have drug addictions. And in Las Vegas, you have access to all the vices you want. And so I think that you have to look at that first and then look into the mental health thing. But, yeah, they're going to migrate. Just the question is, how do you stop them from doing so?
I'm just saying, when I wake up to a motorcycle, one of my neighbors is such a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
He has a motorcycle that he revs up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes it wakes me up, and I wake up pissed off. I can't even, and this happens like maybe once a week, right? I can't even imagine what it is like to have hundreds of homeless people making noise, shooting up drugs, who knows what else they're doing.
And I mean, imagine,
right in my backyard.
Imagine the smells, too, not just the sounds, but I'm sure the smells
I'm
are
used to that in my apartment.
Awful.
So I'm used to that in my apartment. But anyway, that's another story for another show. All right, so we're going to take a break, and when we come back, JD, we're going to talk about the Kobe Memorial last night. Yesterday, I should say. It happened during our show. We're going to react to Vanessa, and also Vanessa Bryant is suing the helicopter company that caused this crash. We'll get to that coming up next. You are listening to The Vegas Take.